I thought possibly Jarvis, the valet, told you?" She ignored that. "Now, as to the daughter of the house. There was only one possible reason for Lucille Sloane's hiring Hastings. She was afraid somebody in the house, Webster, of course, would be arrested. Being in love with him, she never would have suspected him unless there had been concrete, undeniable evidence of his guilt. Do you grasp that reasoning?" "Sure I do," Mr. Crown condemned himself. "What I'm wondering is why I didn't see it long ago." "She, too, you recall, was looking out of a window, on that side of the house, scarcely 15 yards from where the crime was done. It's not hard to believe that she saw what her father saw, the murder or the murderer. Mr. Crown, if you can make her or her father talk, you'll get the truth of this thing, the truth and the murderer. And look at Judge Wilton's part. You asked me why I went to his office this morning. I went because I'm sure he knows the truth. Didn't he stay right at Webster's side when old Hastings interviewed Webster yesterday? Why? To keep Webster from letting out, in his panic, a secret which both of them knew." The sheriff's admiration by this time was boundless. He felt driven to give it expression. "Mrs. Brace, you're a lulu! A lulu, by gravy! Sure, that was his reason. He couldn't have had any other." "As for Webster himself," she carried on her exposition, without emotion, without the slightest recognition of her pupil's praise, "he proves the correctness of everything we've said, so far. That secret which the judge feared he would reveal, that secret which old Hastings was blundering after, that secret, Mr. Crown, was such a danger to him that, to escape the questioning of even stupid old Hastings, he could do nothing but crumple up on the floor and feign illness, prostration. Why, don't you see? He was afraid to talk." "Everything you say hits the mark," agreed Crown, smiling happily. "Center shots! Center shots! You've been right from the very beginning. You tried to tell me all this yesterday morning, and fool that I was, fool that Hastings was." He switched to a summary of what she had put into his mind. "It's right. Webster killed her, and Sloane and his daughter saw him at it. Even Wilton knows it, and he a judge. It seems impossible. By gravy, he ought to be impeached." A new idea struck him. Mrs. Brace, imperturbable, exhibiting no elation, was watching him closely. She saw his sudden change of countenance. He had thought, "She didn't reason this out. Russell saw the murder, the coward, and he's told her. He ran away from—" Another suspicion attacked him. But that was Jarvis's night off. Has she seen Jarvis? Impelled to put this fresh bewilderment into words, he was stayed by the restless, brilliant eyes with which she seemed to penetrate his lumbering mind. He was afraid of losing her cooperation. She was too valuable an ally to affront. He kept quiet. She brought him back to her purpose. "Then you agree with me? You think Webster's guilty?" "Think!" He almost shouted his contempt of the inadequate word. "Think! I know! Guilty? The man's black with guilt." "I'm sure of it," she said, curiously skillful in surrendering to him all credit for that vital discovery. "What are you going to do, now that you know?" "Make him talk. Turn him inside out. Playing sick, is he? I'm going back to Sloanehurst this evening. I'm going to start something. You can take this from me, Webster'll loosen that tongue of his before another sun rises." But that was not her design. "You can't do it," she objected, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Dr. Garnet, your own coroner, says questioning will kill him. Dr. Garnet's as thoroughly fooled as Hastings, and," she prodded him with suddenly sharp tone, "you." "That's right." He was crestfallen, plucking at his chin. "That's hard to get around. But I've got to get around it. I've got to show results, Mrs. Brace. People, some of the papers even, are already hinting that I'm too easy on a rich man and his friend." "Yes," she said evenly. "And you I understood you'd act on our theory." "I've got to. I've got to act." His confusion was manifest. He did not know what to do, and he was silent, hoping for a suggestion from her. She let him wait. The pause added to his embarrassment. "What would that is," he forced himself to the appeal, "I was wondering, anything occur to you? See any way out of it?" "Of course, I know nothing about such procedure," she replied to that slowly, as if she groped for a new idea. "But if you've got the proof from somewhere else, enough to warrant the arrest of Webster," her smile deprecated her probable ineptness, "if Arthur Sloane—" He fairly fell upon the idea. "Right!" he said, clapping his hands together. "Sloane's no dying man, is he? And he knows the whole story. Right you are, Mrs. Brace. He can shake and tremble and whine all he pleases, but tonight he's my meat. My meat, right! Talk? You bet he'll talk." She considered, looking at the opposite wall. He was convinced that she examined the project, viewing it from the standpoint of his interest, seeking possible dangers of failure. Nevertheless, he hurried her decision. "It's the right thing to do, isn't it?" "I should think so," she said at last. "You, with your mental forcefulness, your ability as a questioner, why, I don't see how you can fail to get at what he knows. Beside, you have the element of surprise on your side. That will go far toward sweeping him off his feet." He was again conscious of his debt of gratitude to this woman, and tried to voice it. "This is the first time," he declared, big with confidence, "I've felt that I had the right end of this case." When she had closed the door on him, she went back to the living room and set back in its customary place the chair he had occupied. Her own was where it always belonged. From there she went into the bathroom, and, as Hastings had seen her do before, drew a glass of water which she drank slowly. Then, examining her hard, smooth face in the bedroom mirror, she said aloud: "Pretty soon, now, somebody will talk business with me." There was no elation in her voice, but her lips were, for a moment, thick and wet, changing her countenance into a picture of inordinate greed. Chapter 14. Recording by Roger Moline.